The Sleepwalker's Secret. I had always found solace in the rhythmic sound of my wife's breathing as she slept. But recently, the night had become a stage for something far more sinister. Her breaths turned to murmurs, and her murmurs to a name, the Collector. Each night, she would rise from our bed and wander the house like a specter, her eyes glassy and unseeing. I followed her one evening, my heart pounding in the silence, only to find her standing before our family portrait. Her fingers were clawing at my painted face, her nails leaving jagged lines across my visage. The next morning, I confronted her about it. She had no memory of the event, no recollection of her nightly excursions. It was as if she became someone else entirely when the moon claimed the sky. I decided to delve deeper into this mystery, to understand who the Collector was. My research led me to old town records, to a tale of a man who was said to collect souls, trapping them in portraits and feeding off their essences. As the days passed, my wife's condition worsened. She began to speak in tongues, her voice a cacophony of whispers that seemed to echo from the walls themselves. I watched her, helpless, as she tore at the portrait with a fervor that chilled me to the bone. It was then I noticed something peculiar. The portrait seemed to change. My image was fading, growing more indistinct with each passing night. Desperate for answers, I visited a local medium, a woman known for her ability to commune with the other side. She spoke of a presence in our home, a malevolent force that was tethered to the portrait. She warned me that the Collector was close, that he had marked me for his next prize. I left her place with a heavy heart and a talisman she claimed would protect me. That night, the air was thick with the scent of impending rain. I clutched the talisman, watching as my wife once again approached the portrait. But this time, she stopped short, her gaze fixated on something behind me. I turned, and for a fleeting moment, I saw him, the Collector. His eyes were hollow pits, his smile a gash across his face. He reached for me, and the world went black. I awoke to the sound of thunder, my body drenched in sweat. The portrait was whole again, my face untouched. But the talisman lay shattered on the floor, and my wife, she was sleeping soundly. The days blurred into nights, and the Collector's presence grew stronger. I became obsessed with the portrait, studying its every detail. The brush strokes that formed my face seemed to writhe, as if they were alive. My wife's sleepwalking episodes escalated, her whispers now filled with urgency. She spoke of a pact, a bargain she had made with the Collector. In exchange for her soul, he promised her something she desired above all else. I confronted her again, desperate for answers. She looked at me with eyes that held no recognition, her voice hollow. He promised me a way out, she said. A way to escape this life, this mundane existence. I shook her, demanding to know what she meant. But she only repeated the same phrase, her fingers tracing the edges of the portrait. I turned to the medium once more, seeking guidance. She revealed the truth. The Collector was a soul-hungry entity, feeding off the life force of those he ensnared. He had chosen my wife, seducing her with promises of freedom. But there was a catch. The Collector would claim her soul, and in return, she would become his vessel. Her body would be a conduit for his malevolence, a gateway to our world. I had to break the pact, sever the ties that bound my wife to the Collector. Armed with knowledge, I delved into forbidden rituals, desperate to find a way to save her. The medium warned me, the Collector was cunning, and he would not release his grip easily. I needed an offering, something of equal value to my wife's soul. The storm raged outside as I stood before the portrait, my heart pounding. I whispered the incantation, my voice lost in the wind. The Collector appeared, his form shifting from shadow to substance. His eyes bore into mine, and I offered him my own soul. But he laughed, a sound that echoed through the house. "Too late," he said. "Your wife is already mine." The house became a battleground, the air thick with tension. My wife lay in our bed, her body frail and feverish. The Collector's mark had left its imprint on her. Her eyes now held a distant knowledge, a connection to something beyond our world. I kept vigil, my mind racing with desperate plans. The medium returned, her eyes grave. "The Collector is not done," she said. He seeks more than just your wife's soul. He wants a vessel, a conduit to walk among us. She handed me a vial of liquid silver. This is your last chance, she whispered. The elixir of release. Use it wisely. I crept into the room where the portrait hung, its surface pulsating with malevolence. The collector awaited me, his form shifting from shadow to flesh. You cannot save her, he hissed. She is mine. But I had made my choice. I uncorked the vial and flung the liquid at the canvas. The portrait screamed, its colors bleeding into the air. My wife convulsed, her body racked with pain. The collector's grip tightened, and I saw his true form, a twisted amalgamation of souls, their faces etched in agony. You fool, he spat. You think you can defy me? But I pressed on, my fingers tracing the edges of the portrait. The elixir seeped into the canvas, unraveling the collector's hold. The room trembled, reality warping. The collector's laughter echoed, a chorus of tormented voices. My wife's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw her, the woman I loved, trapped within the darkness. Finish it, she whispered. End this. I tore at the portrait, my nails digging into the fabric. The collector wailed, his form disintegrating. But he had one last trick. He lunged at me, his essence merging with mine. Pain seared through my veins, memories flooding my mind. I saw his victims, their faces etched in agony. And then, clarity, the collector's weakness. I whispered the forgotten name, the one he had hidden deep within my subconscious. The room fractured, reality splintering. The collector screamed, his form unraveling. And then, silence. The portrait lay empty, my wife crumpled on the floor. Her eyes held recognition, gratitude. Thank you, she mouthed. But the collector was not defeated. His essence clung to mine, a parasite feeding off my life force. I knew what I had to do. I kissed my wife one last time, whispered my love, and stepped into the portrait. The canvas closed behind me, and I found myself in a realm of shadows. The collector awaited, his eyes hungry. And so, I became the next vessel, the next collector of souls. My wife's face faded from my memory, replaced by a hunger that consumed me. I wander now, seeking those who sleepwalk through life, whispering their names into the darkness. The portrait hangs in a forgotten corner, waiting for its next victim. The storm rages outside, and I hear the whispers, a promise of return. The collector is patient. He knows I will tire, that I will seek release. But until then, I am bound to this cursed canvas, my life a forever wander. Story 2. Echoes of the Void. I had always been the rational one, the skeptic. Ghost stories and supernatural tales were nothing more than fabrications of an overactive imagination to me. That was until the day I received a text from Jason, my brother who had been dead for over a year. The message was simple yet chilling, I'm still here. My heart raced as I stared at the screen, the words blurring as a cold shiver ran down my spine. I mustered the courage to call the number, but it went straight to voicemail. Jason's voice in the recording was a haunting reminder of what I had lost. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and obsessive research. I scoured the internet for explanations, delved into forums of the paranormal, and even consulted a medium. They all said the same thing, the veil between our world and the next was thinner than we thought. But I needed proof, something tangible. That's when I decided to visit Jason's grave. The cemetery was a somber field of stone and silence. Jason's headstone stood unassuming among the others, its inscription a testament to a life cut short. I stood there, phone in hand, half expecting another message. Instead, the silence was broken by a faint whisper carried by the wind, a whisper that sounded eerily like Jason's voice. I spun around, searching for the source, but found nothing except the creeping fog that began to envelop the graveyard. As night fell, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from all around me, yet nowhere at all. I felt a presence, something unseen, watching me. Panic set in, and I fled the cemetery, the whispers chasing me like echoes of the void. Back home, the safety of my four walls did little to calm my frayed nerves. The text message glowed ominously on my phone screen, a digital specter that refused to be ignored. The following evening, as the shadows grew long and the world outside my window turned to shades of twilight, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Jason's number: "Meet me at our place." Our place, the old treehouse in the woods where we spent countless summers as kids. It was a sanctuary, a haven of memories. Now, it beckoned me into the darkness. With trepidation, I ventured into the woods, the moon casting long, sinister shadows through the gnarled branches. The treehouse loomed ahead, its wooden planks creaking in the wind. As I climbed the ladder, each rung groaned under my weight, as if protesting my intrusion. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay and abandonment. And there, in the corner, was Jason's old walkie-talkie, crackling to life with static. A voice cut through the white noise, a voice that sent chills down my spine. "Why did you leave me?" it asked. It was Jason's voice, full of pain and accusation. I stumbled backward, the walkie-talkie falling from my trembling hands. The room spun, and I could feel the darkness closing in, a darkness that was alive with my brother's anguish. The treehouse seemed to hold its breath as I stood there, the walkie-talkie's static echoing in my ears. Jason's voice, distorted and otherworldly, continued to emanate from the device. "Why did you leave me?" he repeated, each syllable dripping with sorrow. My mind raced, grappling with the impossible. How could my brother be speaking to me from beyond the grave? I clung to the edge of the wooden table, my knuckles white. "Jason," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Is it really you?" The air thickened, suffocating, as if the room itself was alive. The walkie-talkie crackled, and then his voice changed, clearer, more urgent. "The darkness took me," he said. "But I'm still here, trapped between worlds. You have to help me." My rational mind screamed that this was madness, a hallucination born of grief. Yet, the desperation in Jason's voice was too real. "How?" I asked, my breath hitching. "What do I need to do?" The walkie-talkie remained silent for a moment, and then the static returned, punctuated by disjointed words. "The old well," Jason said. "The one in the clearing. That's where it began. Find the truth, and set me free." The clearing. I knew the place, a forgotten corner of the woods, overgrown with tangled vines and memories. Jason and I used to play there as kids, inventing fantastical adventures. But now, it held a secret, a darkness that had swallowed my brother whole. I descended the ladder, my legs shaky, and stepped out into the moonlit night. The forest whispered secrets, leaves rustling like ancient pages. The well stood at the center of the clearing, its stone walls crumbling. Moonlight filtered through the gaps, revealing the murky water below. I peered into its depths, half expecting to see Jason's face staring back at me. But there was nothing, just darkness, an abyss that seemed to swallow sound itself. I reached for the bucket, its rusted chain creaking as I lowered it. The water was cold, biting, and as I drew it up, I noticed something, faint letters etched into the well's rim. The words were barely legible, but they sent a chill down my spine. "Sacrifice," I read aloud. "To bridge the gap." Sacrifice? What did it mean? I glanced back at the treehouse, the walkie-talkie still lying there, its static-filled voice haunting me. Jason's plea echoed in my mind. "Find the truth," he had said. But what truth? And what sacrifice was required? As the night wore on, I delved deeper into the well's history. Local legends spoke of a cursed love, a forbidden union that had ended tragically. The well, they said, was the site of that doomed romance. Desperate lovers had thrown themselves into its depths, hoping to reunite in death. But their souls remained trapped, unable to move on. Was Jason one of them? Had he stumbled upon this tragic secret? I returned to the well, armed with a spade and determination. The earth yielded reluctantly, revealing bones, human bones. I gasped, my mind reeling. Jason's bones? Had he been here all along? But then I noticed something else, a pendant, tarnished but unmistakable. It was the necklace he used to wear, a gift from our mother. Tears blurred my vision as I clutched it, realizing the truth. Jason had sacrificed himself to bridge the gap between worlds, hoping to find answers. And now, he was calling out to me, urging me to complete the ritual. The well awaited its final offering. But what would it cost me? As I stood there, torn between love and fear, the whispers returned, louder this time. "Set me free," Jason's voice pleaded. "Or join me in the void." The well's gaping maw seemed to mock me as I stood there, the pendant clutched tightly in my hand. Jason's voice echoed in my mind, urging me to complete the ritual. But what would it cost me? The legend spoke of sacrifice, but what kind? I had to know, for Jason's sake and my own. I returned to the treehouse, the walkie-talkie still lying where I left it. Its static-filled voice whispered secrets that had been buried for centuries. The well was a gateway, a bridge between worlds, but it demanded payment. I sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, the pendant resting on my palm. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What sacrifice will set my brother free?" The whispers intensified, a chorus of lost souls. "Blood," they murmured. "Life for life." My heart pounded. Blood? It was madness. Yet, I knew what I had to do. The well had claimed Jason, and now it hungered for another soul. I glanced at the walkie-talkie, its buttons worn from years of use. Jason's voice had become my lifeline, my connection to the other side. But how far would I go to keep it? The moon hung low in the sky as I stepped back into the clearing. The well awaited its offering. I pricked my finger with the spade, the pain sharp and real. Blood dripped into the water, mingling with the memories of those who had come before. The whispers grew louder, urging me on. "More," they hissed. "More." I hesitated, my mind a battlefield of fear and determination. Jason's face flashed before me, his laughter, his tears, the way he used to sneak into my room at night to share secrets. He was my brother, my flesh and blood. But he was also trapped, a prisoner of the void. I pressed my hand against the well's rim, willing myself to go deeper. "Take me," I whispered. "Take me instead." The water surged, pulling me in. Darkness enveloped me, and I felt weightless, suspended between worlds. Faces swirled around me, lovers, children, soldiers, all seeking release. And then, I saw Jason. His eyes held both gratitude and sorrow. "Thank you," he said. "But there's one more thing." "What?" I gasped, my voice barely audible. "What more could you want?" Jason's smile was bittersweet. "The truth," he said. "The truth about us, about our family." His words cut through the fog of confusion. Our family had always been secretive, their past shrouded in half-truths and whispers. What had they hidden from us? What had driven Jason to the well? The void tightened its grip, threatening to pull me under. "Tell me," I pleaded. "Tell me everything." Jason's voice echoed, merging with the others. "Our ancestors made a pact," he said. "A pact with the darkness. They sought power, immortality. But it came at a price, a sacrifice every generation. Our parents paid that price, and now it's our turn." My mind reeled. Sacrifice? Our parents? I had to know more. "How?" I asked. "How do we break the cycle?" Jason's eyes bore into mine. "The well," he said. "It's the key. You must destroy it, sever the connection. Only then can we be free." The void tugged harder, threatening to tear me apart. "Promise me," Jason whispered. "Promise you'll end it." I nodded, my resolve firm. "I promise." And with that, the darkness swallowed me whole. Now, as I stand at the edge of the clearing, spade in hand, I know what I must do. The well awaits, hungry for its final offering. Jason's voice lingers, urging me forward. The truth lies buried in its depths, and I am ready to unearth it, even if it costs me everything. The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.